Next, with a significant part of the U.S. fleet in the Caribbean, we look at the resources deployed and the reason behind their deployment with U.S. Marine Corps veteran and attorney John Deaton. Good to have you on the show, John. John, do we have you? Yes, we do. Now, the Council on Foreign Relations reports the deployment of 12 ships, over 100 aircraft, 10,000 troops, and 6,000 sailors in the Caribbean. Your fellow Marines are among them. What could these forces accomplish tactically in the region?
Well, they could accomplish a lot. It only takes a few Marines, and thank you for having me to accomplish a lot of things. But I think what this is a lot of perception of the Trump administration, putting pressure on not just the Venezuelan government, but the people. I don't think an invasion is likely. There's too much risk involved. And quite frankly, there's not enough forces for that. So I think what we're seeing is a combination of military might and force coupled with sanctions to effectuate regime change of Maduro.
Now, President Trump reportedly gave Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro an ultimatum to step down. What resources does Venezuela have to resist U.S. pressure?
Well, listen, they only have one resource, and that is oil, and that's a great resource. But when you implement sanctions, not just against Venezuela, but countries that do business with the United States in purchasing that Venezuelan oil, then you're basically choking off the only lifeline that Venezuelan government has other than their cocaine usage. And that's what people have to understand, that we're talking about a Venezuelan government that is highly corrupt. They're using their military, including Air Force planes, to deliver 250 tons of cocaine per year to the United States. So if you can eliminate both avenues of revenue, oil and cocaine distribution, then you can probably successfully ultimately get Maduro out of there.
What, or do you think that we could see the U.S. put additional pressure on Maduro in some other ways, and what do you think those ways could be?
On other countries to eliminate any business. And what you see Maduro doing right now is cozying up to Russia, China, Hezbollah as backup reinforcements. And so I think that taking sanctions and making sure that now that they've been declared a foreign terrorist organization, you can also, the U.S. Treasury can seize assets, even assets that are being utilized through Russian banks. And I think that's a way to do it.
John, what would a direct conflict with the U.S. and Venezuela actually look like?
Well, again, I think an invasion, listen, there's two options, right? There's this invasion that Maduro keeps talking about. He keeps saying that the United States is going to invade Venezuela, and he's got all kinds of forces, including civilians and drug cartel members, entrenched in bunkers ready to defend that. But I think that's highly unlikely. It's too risky. And quite frankly, you would need more than 10,000 troops to successfully, in my opinion, invade. I don't think President Trump's going to do that. There'd be too many people in his own party that would be upset at that. That's contradictory to what he did. So I think what we're seeing is just a massive way of choking off any income. And if you choke them out financially, eventually it's going to cause internal pressure, maybe people inside his own military, to basically take Maduro out or force him out.
Now, as I was just talking about with my previous guest, Kervin Oakwin, America's adversaries do have a significant presence in South America. China cozying up to socialist leaders, Russia, levying resources there. So obviously, this buildup of the Navy in the Caribbean is quite a bit larger than what's needed to take out a few drug boats. So, what kind of influence could this presence have on actors that the U.S. might not exactly want to have a presence in South America?
Well, and I think that's what you're seeing play out when I said that Maduro is cozying up to Hezbollah, Iran, Russia. He's trying to see, basically what type of backup reinforcements that he could have. Can he turn those, U.S. adversaries into his allies? But I, a lot again. I think there's so much talk about an invasion. Listen, you and your previous guests were talking about mass migration, and if there was an invasion into Venezuela, it would create millions of refugees that would, be flooding other parts of the world. And I just don't think that that's going to happen. So I think we're going to continue to see limited strikes. Now, there's a difference, but not just taking out the boats that are coming, but you could see drone strikes and others of cartel members who are inside the military government, who are part of the cartel and this narco operations. That's really state-run narco operations. I think we're going to see maybe some of that, increased sanctions. And I think, within a year, 6 months, maybe Maduro will probably be asking for a way out.
Yeah, and it does seem like we're in a new age of military activity with drones and the Ukraine-Russia war, and with pagers exploding in Lebanon. There's a lot of different resources that could be leveraged, I imagine, that we don't even know about. Now, Secretary of State Marco Rubio earlier this year negotiated a deal with Panama securing passage for U.S. military vessels, just to jog your memory here. How important was that move in retrospect, given this buildup?
Very important. Listen, we're talking about, America. We have America First agenda, but we are a global economy. As you see, every aspect of our economy is impacted by our ability to move products across the globe. And so keeping passage to those, strategic areas are not just for military reasons, it's for also for economic reasons. So it was an important move to make, and I think Secretary Rubio is doing a good job at that.
John, before we go, how does the increased U.S. military presence in South America fit into Trump's broader national security strategy that was recently released?
Well, I think that what we're seeing play out in South America is really President Trump's war on terror, meaning the drug cartels. One of his promises was that he would stop the drug infiltration. We've lost 1 million Americans to fentanyl deaths and overdoses. There's an epidemic in the country. And so I think it's more about the drug issue in America than it is anything else. And I think that's something that all people should support. Now, whether you support every individual strike on every individual boat is another thing. There are going to be all kinds of, inquiries made. And if the House flips in the midterms, we're going to see investigations into Pete Hegseth and all of that. Politics are going to get in the way, but we need to protect Americans at all costs, in my opinion.
All right, John Deaton, thank you.
Thank you.